Hey, everybody, welcome. Here we go. We got a really good show for you today. Today, we're going to be talking everything to do with fishing offshore. Since we've moved into the offshore scene, it's time to talk about that. We're going to be talking offshore the whole show here today. So, welcome, everybody. It's Promar Ahi USA Tuesday. We always talk about Promar products on Tuesday, and there's nothing more important than Promar products for fishing offshore. So we're going to go over a bunch of that stuff today. We're going to be talking offshore. The whole show today is basically about fishing offshore for bluefin, yellowfin, dorado, yellowtail, whatever shows up offshore. Right now, it looks like everything's offshore. Everything's showing up. It's all about this weather, and it's all about time on water and learning to know what you're looking for. So that's what we're talking about today and how important it is. And a thing that blows most people's minds is they're seeing all these reports from these people catching all these big fish offshore, but you're not seeing any reports from the people that aren't catching. So we've talked about this many, many times on the podcast, on our shows, on our live shows, on our live fishing shows. We talk about this all the time, gang. People, you get very confused looking at the experts, the Billy Kays, the Dwayne Diegos, the Brandon Haywards, the Todd Mansers, the guys that are out there offshore fishing every single day. The only reports you see are the days that they catch. They're not calling in a report or posting a report that, hey, we didn't catch anything today. So that's why we've been hesitant on sending you all offshore. Well, now the dam is open. It's time to go offshore. We're going to have a phenomenal amount of offshore game plans over on the website every week from now on. Justin's going offshore on Tuesday. You'll get to see live offshore fishing. But today, I'm going to try to help you all that own private boats to get on to figuring out how are these guys successful every time they go offshore. What's the difference between them and us? Why are we not being successful when we go offshore? And I'm going to probably hurt some people's feelings today. We're going old school. We're going back to how we started this podcast 3 years ago. Today's all about teaching. And that's where we're going to be going for the rest of the season. I'm going to be talking, teaching more and more about how to be successful with whatever you decide to do as far as fishing, boating. We talk about all the safety stuff. We talk about so much stuff on this show. But today, I listened to my wife. She had a great suggestion. Kelly Girl said, you need to go back to what made this podcast great. You need to go back to the teaching. And every day we talk about the website and we talk about all that stuff. Believe me, everything you're going to hear about today is also available at the website. So don't get all bummed out if you didn't get to write down anything, if you didn't take good notes, or if you're like, I don't know exactly what he meant by that or this. Everything's over there at the website. Plus, you can listen to this as much as you want. We have 500 of these podcasts available on Spotify. Those of you cruising in your cars, you can type them in anytime you want. But today is a special one. We titled it Special Promar Ahi, all about offshore fishing. So number one thing I'm going to tell you guys is when you're going to go offshore, you need to get as much information as you possibly can. You need to scour however you get your information. Call the people that you know that are out there fishing. You need to gather up as much information as you possibly can to put together the best possible scenario. And that goes with, how are they biting? What time of day are they biting? Where is an important thing, where they're biting at. Also, where are they not at? People would like, you go on the different communities and stuff, and people are telling you what they're doing, what they're looking at, where they're looking at, what they're not seeing. Everything matters when you're offshore fishing, gang. Where they're catching them at, where they're not catching them at. Weather is a giant factor. weather is a huge factor. We have to pay attention to the weather and the wind. And now, as far as this kite fishing goes, and that's pretty much what these fish are focused on right now. You're seeing these big counts coming from these guys. Dan, good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Hope everything's okay. Brett, welcome. Brent, it's good to see you. Joe, John, Jose, everybody, thank you for joining us. Today is super important, though, if you want to learn how to fish offshore. It's very, very important. Anytime, Mike, you're not fishing with bottom contour as your factor, when you're not anchoring, when there's not an opportunity to anchor. This bluefin, yellowfin, dorado stuff, it's been as close as 2 miles. I know that up there where you're at, it bit wide open 7 miles outside of Ventura Harbor. So everywhere. Don Stanley, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Justin's back fishing. You're going to be featured on every show, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got you covered. So you're going to be in. The only time we can show you offshore is when we're offshore fishing, gang. So today we're talking everything offshore. Those of you that just joined us, the number one thing, if you're going offshore and you've gathered as much information as you can from all the different entities that you know, all the different people you know that are out fishing every day, now you've got to absolutely have to have a pair of really, really good binoculars, okay? I'm going to talk about these today. These are mine. These cost $6,200 US, okay? You can get refurbished ones for $3,000. My buddy Jimmy Kingsmill is the distributor of the gyro stabilizing binoculars. Now, there's other brands. There's other stabilized binoculars. There's all kinds of stuff out there, but they're not these. They're not gyro stabilizing binoculars. Staby binoculars, they're not gyros. These are gyro stabilizing binoculars. You'll see a lot of the videos. You'll see a lot of the guys in these. When you go out fishing with me, this is what I'm staring into all day. I myself or my crew, we don't take our eyes out of these. If somebody's taking their eyes out of these, 2 other guys are looking in them. There's never a time where we're offshore where we're not staring into binoculars. I've been asked on many podcasts and many different shows, radio shows, what would you rather have, Dave, your sonar or your gyro stabilizing binoculars? Every single time it's going to be my gyro stabilizing binoculars. I can see a bird 4 miles away. I can see a kelp patty 4 miles, 5 miles away. It's crazy. When I put my younger crew in the gyros, I remember Chase would find kelp patties 5 miles away. Nice little kelp patties the size of your trash can lid that we could slide in on and catch a couple hundred fish on. These are the most important part of your offshore, gang. When you think about it, you can get a refurbished pair for about $3,000. I'll give you Jimmy Kingsmill's phone number. But I'm going to tell you what, you got to have a pair. The amount of money you spend on fuel, the amount of money you spend on flying fish, that big reel you bought to wind in the big tunas, everything that you have on your boat is worthless if you can't find the fish. So that's why you got to have a pair of really, really, really good binoculars. Stabies aren't that. If you can only afford a pair of Stabies, hold on to your money and wait till you can afford a pair of these. It's game changer night and day. It doesn't matter. Like Jim Kingsmill said when he was on the show, if you don't have a pair of gyro stabilizing binoculars, you are fishing for boats. What about at night? Yeah, then it's onto the sonar. But you know what, Devin? My guys and I, we're not fishing that nighttime jig fishing thing. We're not doing that slow pitch, carnada jig fishing. Because why? You need a bunch of those guys. In order to slow that school down that you're seeing at nighttime, you need 10, 12, 15, 20 lines dropping down with big lures on them. You have to have that. That's why the sport boats are able to capitalize on those marks at night. sonar fish 200-300 feet down. You and I stop on our skiff, or we 4 or 5 guys stop on a big Hatteras or something. You cannot slow those fish down when you drop 2 or 3 big lures down there. They're on their way to where the food's at. They're going over to the Shogun where they're dropping 20 of those lures down. And yeah, if you have an Omni sonar, that would be spectacular, or a good CH 500. But if you don't have a super good pair of binoculars, and I mean high end, save your money, don't go on 2 trips. Take that money and go buy a pair of gyro stabilizing binoculars, and then treat these as good as you treat your family, good as you treat your children. Don't leave the batteries in them when you're done fishing. Take the batteries out. Hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? 1 2 1 2. Anybody? Can anybody hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Anybody? No? Hello? Yes. Okay, good. All right. So back up a little bit, Dave. Back up. Okay. So, like we say all the time, and Dave's saying it, a lot of people are saying it, if you don't have a really good pair of binoculars, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be fishing for boats all the time. Al, if you log in, I'll put you right in. If you log in, I'll put you right in, buddy. You know the code. I sent it to you yesterday. You know the link. Gang, gyro stabilizing binoculars are an absolute game changer. It's going to change what you catch, because now you're not going to be fishing for boats. I was watching a young man yesterday, though, on his live show, driving around. He had these around his neck like this. If you have them around your neck like this, you're not going to find any fish. I don't know if you know that or not. You have to put them up. You got to do this. You have to, just because you have your binoculars around your neck, that does not mean you're looking for fish. It does not mean you're looking. I promise you, you have to pick these up and you have to look. Now, I've been on boats from hundreds of feet to 20 feet. And the key to this whole thing is to slow down and start looking. Let's say your saltwater guide told you guys to start your looking around the 209 and then look out towards the 277. When you get out into the area of the 209 and a mile or two from the high spot, slow the boat down. If you're going to troll your Mad Mac, fine. Slow down to 15, 16 knots. If you're not going to troll the Mad Mac, hey, Al, I see you there. If you're not going to troll the Mad Mac, throw out some of these live deception cedar plugs from Promar Ahi USA. Throw a couple of these out. Get the boat down to about 6.5 knots and start looking. Hey, Al. Start looking.
Hey, guys.
What's happening, buddy?
Just got back from the old skin doctor.
All right. They take a big chunk out of your head?
Yeah.
We don't want to see it.
Wear your sunscreen. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, exactly. That's for sure. So just listen in here, Al. We'll jump into you in a minute here. So, gang, if you slow down and throw out the cedar plug behind the boat, get down to 6.5, 8 knots and start to look. And what are you looking for? You're looking for anything that is not water. Anything that's not water. So you want to slow down and you want to start looking for anything that's not water. It can all be fish. It can all be fish. Right, Al? Isn't that how you would do it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And when you slow down, you get to deploy the CH500, the binoculars, put out some jigs, and kick back and look around. You're looking for birds, flat spots, dark spots, kelps, the whole 9 yards.
And what Al means by flat spots, when you're out there and there's a little bit of chop on the water, excuse me, and you, oh my goodness.
Get some water, boy.
And you start to see areas where the water's slick for a little bit. That's normally caused by that bluefin or that yellowfin tearing apart a ball of bait underneath the surface of the water, and the oil that comes off the bait will make the water slick. So it's super important to be looking the whole time. I turn my sonar volume up and I can hear the when you hear the you look and see if there's something on there. But these are my babies. These are it. These are what I'm using 99.9% of the time to find the fish. Plus, when I was guiding, I was on a different boat every day. So everybody's electronics are different. Everybody's got them all set up different. So these gyro stabilizing binoculars are a game changer, but they don't work hanging around your neck and they don't work at 25 knots. I don't care how good of a looker you are. They don't work at 25 knots. You're flying right by all the fish. Justin talked about it yesterday. It's about slowing down and understanding what you're looking for and spending the time looking. What do you think, Al?
Absolutely right. You get out to the zone, you get all settled in, and you start looking. I can see the curvature of the earth kind of when you look to those things. You know how the ocean goes like this. You can see bird. One bird 3 to 4 miles away. I have the Fujinon Bilights. I don't have those real expensive ones, but I have 2 pair. And whatever you do, if you guys invest in those things, don't even drop them from 6 inches. Otherwise, you'll be sending them back to the shop. They're very delicate.
And the Fujinon Bilights, they're not cheap. And they're gyro stabilizing binoculars. We used them on Wild and Sack for years. They work fine.
Right. They work great for me. I can see really good out of those things.
There's a huge difference in binoculars, gang, and don't get ripped off. If you don't know, call me or call Al. We'll help you. We'll walk you through it. We don't want you to go buy a $2,000 pair of binoculars that aren't the kind, that aren't gyros. We don't want you. We want you to hang on and wait a minute. Let me be honest. We don't get a penny out of you buying binoculars. It's not going to change what Al and I eat for dinner, but I'll guarantee it's going to change what you catch. The other thing, gang, if you're going to go offshore, you got to stop fishing for boats. Yesterday, the young man that was doing the live show out there on the water, he was using, when he would pick up his binoculars, Al, it was so fun, and he was live, and he would pick up his binoculars, and you know what he'd use them for? To look at the other boats, to see if they were catching anything. I was blown away, gang. That's not what these binoculars, these are not designed to look at the Royal Polaris.
Right.
These are designed to look for fish. If you guys want to go see what they're doing on the other sport boats, all you got to do is call me and I'll let you talk to the other sport boat captains on my phone and you can find out what they're doing. You don't have to spend your time staring in binoculars, gang. Binoculars are made for catching fish. That's what they're designed for. Gyros are spectacular. Yeah, get the Pelican case for your binoculars. I have a good case. My binoculars, if they're not in my hand, they are laying on the floor in the bridge, or they're in their case. They're never set on the dash. I don't know if you've ever been on a boat before, but the boats rock. And if these things, like Al said, if you drop these things 6 inches, oh, you're so bummed. You're so sad. It's tragic. And once they're broken, then the only way is to send them back to the shop and get them fixed. You guys have that binocular shop down there by where you live, Al, in San Diego. What is it called? Right there.
Yeah, I don't recollect. Remember the name of it, but I have a pair that's sitting there waiting for me because I dropped mine about 6 inches the other day. I wasn't really paying it. I've never done that, and I had to send them in. It's $580 fix them.
So crazy.
Yeah.
You got to be very careful with these binoculars. But now, okay, so now you got your good binoculars. We've gone over this 100 times. Now, setting up your electronics. This is crucial, gang. Pay attention. This is super crucial. Now, I only been doing this for 50 years, so I'm only telling you the way I do it. If your brother, sister's, aunt's cousin, or your plumber or your electrician has a better way to do it, that's fine. Do it their way. But the guys that taught me how to set up my electronics are in the International Game Fish Hall of Fame, the IGFA Hall of Fame. Steve Lasley gave me all of the greatest pictures of the CH500, how to set it up so that you can catch fish. The up and down photometers that you guys have, you guys call them fish finders. I'm going to give you guys, we're going to do stuff we normally would only do on the website when we're doing these educational podcasts. So here's the first thing you want to do on your up and down fish finding apparatus. If you're an old school fish finder, you have 2 frequencies you can set it on, 200 or 50. If you're fishing offshore, you need to hook it up to 50. If you got it on 200, you're just cheating on yourself. The beam for 200 is super narrow. That's for fishing rockfish. That's what they put those on there for back when we used to fish cowcod and reds and 800 feet of water so that it wouldn't spread out. So that's the angle when it's 50. This is the angle when it's 200. So you're only seeing this much of the water when you have your fish finder set at 200 frequency. When you have it set at 50, you're looking at that much water. It's a huge difference. It'll change everything, gang. All I'm trying to do is help you. The next thing you want, so take your frequency, and if you have a newer machine, they have all kinds of different frequencies. You want to be on the lowest one, and those new chirps, they got an 83, I believe is what it is. That's their low frequency. You want to go to 83. It's going to give you a bigger look at the ocean because you don't have a CH500 like Captain Al Clowers has. You didn't spend 30, 40 grand on a sonar.
Hey, I just this will help them a little bit too. Put it on split screen, both frequencies.
No,
but they can see the 50 works way better. You know, just for example.
Yeah, don't do that. I don't like split screen. Most of my private boaters, Al, they got a small screen, so they're going to miss a lot of stuff. Right. But you do want to use your A scope. A scope allows you a couple seconds, like 1 second before the fish is on there. You'll see it on that A scope. There's no reason to look at the ocean this wide. The 200, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to contradict you, Al. I
just threw it out there so they could see the difference of 50 to 200 because it's a big difference, even when they're fishing shallow. You know what I mean?
It's night and day.
And they can see the difference when they split it.
Well, there you go. If you want to see the difference, get on a good school on the 50 and then switch it over to 200 and watch. You're not going to see any fish, and you're going to go, there's no fish here. But you guys don't want to run it on 200 ever, not even for fun on Tuesday. It's not fun to not see fish when you're out there. It's super important. So you got to set up your fish finder. This is crucial. If you haven't set up your fish finder yet and you've got it running on all the automatic settings because you're scared of the machine, you can call me or Al. We'll teach you how to set the machine up the right way, but you need to do it in the harbor. You need to do it before you get offshore. You need to take your fish finding apparatus. You need to take it off of auto on as far as range goes and gain goes and all the settings. You take it off of auto, you put it on manual for sensitivity, gain, and range. Take it off of auto. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to look at the dock, the water at your dock. Let's say where Al's at, it's 12 feet deep. You're going to put your screen at 20 feet so that you can see that bottom in the middle of your screen. If it's 12 feet deep, the top 0, the bottom's 20. So in the middle is where you're seeing the bottom of the ocean. Now you're going to turn your gain all the way up so it blacks out your screen. Now you're going to slowly turn the gain down till the bottom and the surface, you can see them. The minute you can see them, that's where you want to set it at. Take a picture. It'll usually be 3.5 to 5.5 on the gain. You take a picture of that, you'll always know. Don't touch it now. It's set. Go offshore, turn your range to 200 feet. The old machines, you can set it at 150. That's great. But new machines, it's like 200 or 220. You don't want to look deeper than that, okay? You don't have Al's boat. You don't have a phenomenal amount of bait. Most of us have a scoop and a half or maybe 2 scoops on our private boat. You can't draw those fish up that are below 200 feet. You're just not going to. And plus, you're not going to do that deep drop in the lure, slow pitch or whatever. You're not going to be doing that. So those fish, if they're 200 feet down or 150 feet down, they're staging in that water. Once you mark them in that depth, I hit mark on my GPS, and those fish are going to be pretty much in that little area all day, maybe 1/8 of a mile away from it. When they're down there at 200 feet or 150 feet, you're going to see giant boomerangs down there. When that fish comes above the 100-foot threshold, when it's from 100 foot to the surface, those suckers are into the feeding mode. I've seen many people tell me, hey, Captain Dave, I'm marking a bunch of fish at 100 feet. Should I drop a sinker down? No. A bluefin or a yellowfin, 2 flicks of their tail, they've swum 100 feet. They're down there looking up, waiting for Al to deploy the flying fish. And as soon as Al drops a sinker and it goes flying by them, they all look at each other and go, wow, what was that? I have no idea. I'm waiting for the guy to drop the flying fish in the water. They're not looking at your sinker. But it's key to make sure your photometer, your fish finding apparatus is set at manual. You do not want that machine to be in charge of what you're looking at. I know I'm throwing out a phenomenal amount of information as fast as I possibly can. I only got an hour. I'm trying to give you as much cool stuff as I can. So think about that. Your fish finder is set up on auto because you're terrified of it. And the guy that installed it, he doesn't know how to use it. They're good at installing, but they're not very good at using it. So you're going to want to change. You're going to want to change it to manual and make sure that it's set. Now, Al, when you're fishing those yellowtail at the Coronados, when you're fishing in 150 or 200 feet of water, what do you have your photometer set at?
I got it manually set like to 200, a little bit deeper than the bottom.
That way he can see the definition of the bottom, gang. What we're telling you is not, there's no reason for me to lie to you. And why do people listen to me? Well, because I've been doing this for 50 years at a super high level. So absolutely, I guarantee you what I'm trying to share with you guys is the absolute truth. I just wanted Al to let you know that he's setting his machines up that way, because if you look at Al and I, we've done everything you could possibly do wrong. So, and we've done it at the highest level of doing it wrong, I promise you.
And we still do it every now and then.
And then we have to go back into our little brains and pull one of those files out and go, what had happened when I did this? Just like the other day, Al, tell them about how you found those yellowtail in 10 feet of water.
Oh, yeah, by just strolling around, looking around, you know. the phalometer don't work too good in 10 feet. But yeah, just trolling around, snooping around. That's how I found them.
And for captains like Al and I, you know what's super easy is going to the island. We know where their fish are. We know their houses. We can go boop, boop. When we go offshore, even for me and Al and all the other captains that are good at what they do, it's a long grind. It's a long, hard grind, but we know the payoff's there. But do you think Al and I want to look at these all day? Hell no. We want to hang out with our grandkids and play and do stuff. But you hired us to take you fishing. We're going to be staring in these all day long because it absolutely matters. Al's a little different than all of us, though. He's got the CH500, which is an absolute game changer too, because now he can look out in front of his boat and scan back and forth. But most of us don't have that. So we got to spend our time in our gyros. We got to make sure our fish finding apparatus is set up right. And then the next thing is know how to use your GPS. It's important to know how to put the numbers in and then how to hit navigate and how to navigate to the spot, because you may be out there one day and you may call Al and say, Al, where are you at? And Al will give you 4 numbers real fast, but he's not going to repeat it because we don't want every boat in the world coming, but he'll give you some information, or he'll give you some information on the phone, but you got to remember he's working. So if you don't understand what those 4 numbers mean, I'm going to help you out. When we're out fishing tuna, we're only giving you 4 numbers. It could be 33 degrees, but we're going to give you the next 2 numbers, 27, and then it could be 118 degrees, and we're going to give you the next 2 numbers. But we're not going to give you the last 3. That's silly. That doesn't work. The only reason you use those last 3, gang, is when you're trying to pinpoint, get it on a rockfish spot or on a big rock that yellowtail live on. But when you're offshore, if Al tells you he's at 29 and 37, that means he's at 33 degrees, 29.000, and 117.32.00. If you get in that area, you're going to see Al. He's going to be in that zone, but you need to understand how the numbers work, how they go up, how they go down, when you go in or out or up or down the coast. And then you need to know how the machine works. Once you have all this figured out, you got your GPS dialed in, you got your good pair of binoculars, you figured out how to use the GPS. Now it's about hunting. And it's just like Justin will tell you, Al will tell you, when we're offshore hunting, we know how to catch the fish when we find them, but it's all about the hunt.
Yeah, the hard part is finding them. Or a kelp,
Right, finding a kelp ain't easy either.
Right now it's really hard. There's not very much kelp in the water at all.
Well, most of the kelp died in the last 4 or 5 years, so you don't have a lot of kelp floating. Where does the kelp come from? The outer islands, right. San Nicolas Island, San Clemente Island, Santa Cruz, Santa Rosa, San Miguel, all those islands. Kelp patties come from out there floating. They're just floating in the middle of the ocean, and it's all structure. So the next thing we're going to talk about is real quick. Al uses this. I use this. It's Promar Ahi USA Tuesday. You want to make sure you got the fluorocarbon on the boat, because this is going to absolutely change what's going to happen when you throw your bait in the water. If it's on a nice piece of fluorocarbon and it's invisible, you got a very good chance of getting a bite. That's why we talk about the GT4. Al talks about it all the time. Justin, Pablo. We love this product. It ties like monofilament. It fishes like mono, but it's invisible like fluorocarbon, and it's abrasion resistant. You got anything to add about it?
Al? Yeah, I do. Yesterday, all those yellowtail I smashed down the islands were on that 40-pound GT4. That stuff works great. Yeah,
that's right. Hey, tell us about what happened yesterday real quick, and then we'll get back into this offshore. Al was out fishing yesterday, and he tried to go live. He got hammered right when we went live, and he tried to go live, and he just got out of range, right?
Right. Yeah, it happened just like I was just messing with you, and then all of a sudden, bam, we're bit. Hey, and I was filming it and everything, and then I looked at it and I didn't have any service. But yeah, that stuff at the islands, it's as good as it's been in the last 10 years. I mean, it's wide open. If you go down there and you kind of have a clue, you're going to catch them. But that GT4, we've been dragging that around on our slow troll rods and just smashing them, and the fly line baits too, But yesterday I had a couple that came all the way from Texas to go fishing with me. It was their 30th anniversary. Texas people are cool. They're fishing and hunting fools. And they came out, and the guy, oh, yeah, redfish, drum, all that stuff. Yeah, they pull hard and everything. I said, all right, cool. First yellowtail, I handed it to him. He was like, dang, dude. So, and he was a big buff guy, right? So he was tapped out quick. And, we put their tent on the boat and then proceeded to kill some more. And he's like, hey, it's just been a phenomenal morning, man. We're freaking good. We can go back anytime you want. And that was 11:30. So I got back at 1:30, and they were just over the top. It was really cool.
If you guys saw my Facebook page, Dave Hansen page, you'll see I posted Al's video over there with the couple on the boat. They had limits of yellowtail laying on the deck under their feet. You couldn't wipe those smiles off their faces, Al. What a great day. When Al called me at 8:30 in the morning, he was like, we're already done. I'm like, what? You're already done? He's like, yep, I can go home now if I want. Yeah,
I've been getting lucky. Yesterday I hadn't been there. I haven't been working. But yesterday it's been 6 days since I've been down there, and I didn't have much information gathered. But down there, I don't really trip on all that. I just go off my instincts, and I said, all right, I'm going to start here. I rolled up in there, and there was a big hunk of boats inside of where I wanted to go. So we're outside everybody. I told Ryan, put a couple back, and in 2 minutes we had a double. Right away. Double. It was insane. So it was cool fishing.
And when you're the captain, gang, and you get a double first thing in the morning on yellowtail, your day's done. You're like, this is it, man.
Well, the pressure's off. Then you can just fish, without a lot of stress,
But the cutest animals in the world helped you out, right?
Right. Oh yeah, the sea lions. Yeah. The sea lions were brutal. It was a big time battle, and they were tripping on the sea lions, and we had this one big one under, and I couldn't really take off from them because the fish were bunched up. So it's not like I could play cat and mouse because there was boats inside. So I just kind of started feeding them and trying to get the fish in the boat, and we got 2 or 3 away from them. But the last one, there was a big old gnarly one that was hanging underneath my swim step. So we'd figure the other ones were feeding him. We'd just put the wood to that 40-pound GT4. I mean, we hammer him down. I said, you got to hammer it down and just lift pull that thing in here. Ryan went to lift pull a 20-pounder, and the thing got halfway up the swim step out of the water, and that big-ass sea lion came and grabbed him. The clients were tripping out. And I said, hey, you guys still like sea lions? But we ended up putting a bunch on the boat. We fed some and caught a lot,
No, you did. You had a phenomenal day, just like you've been putting together a bunch of great days. It's just sad that you're stuck at the dock and I don't know what's going on, gang. Everything's biting and Al's at the dock. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know either. This is the worst year as far as trips wise since I started. I don't know what's going on, But,
it's pretty crazy.
I have plenty of availability. I have a full day on Friday, and I think I have the 6th, and I have 4 or 5 coming up, but I have plenty of availability, man. So you guys want to go get on that? The best bite right now down on my zone is the islands. The stuff offshore is getting ready to pop. There's not a lot of kelps, but those fish are coming. So, but the yellowtail, the long range fleet was down there yesterday. The Independence, the Shogun, all these big. That tells you what's going on. That tells you how good the bite is down there.
Yeah.
And you put 20 of those 20 to 25 pound yellowtail on the boat, it's no joke. People are tired by that, the end of the day. But it's fun fishing. It's close. A 3/4 day or a full day. I like doing full day so we can have plenty of time and not be in a rush. And and load up on rock cod if they want to. That's what I did on the last trip. We had limits of yellowtail early, and I went and just put limits of rock cod on the boat too. It was pretty cool down there.
Beautiful. Yeah. So
I want to fish. I want to fish. I'm not going to give it away, but my prices are reasonable. If you want to go on a great platform and a guy and a deckhand that know what they're doing, come with us. Show some love and give me a chance. Everyone that comes with me falls in love with us. So it's good stuff.
Yep. So give everybody your number again. We'll get back into this teaching thing.
It's 619-800-3474. It's 619-800-FISH. That way you can't forget it. Or you can go to my site, CaptainClowers.com, and auto book if you can't get a hold of me. But for the most part, you can get a hold of me. And that information you're giving out today, Dave, is monumental. It's there's a lot to it. And as far as messing with the meter, if I have something I need to work out on the meter, I do it when I'm tied to my slip.
Absolutely.
With nobody on the boat.
You don't want to be messing around with it out in the ocean, gang. You need to get it set at the dock. And Steve Thompson, that's a great question. As far as the speed goes, 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, that's going to depend on your machine and how good the bottom looks when you're at your dock and how quickly it moves across the screen. Understand, on the up and down photometer fish finder that almost every one of us have, unless you spent 30, 40, 50 grand on your fish finder, you do not have a sonar. A sonar has a ram that comes out of the hull and looks out. If that's not what yours is, even though your sister's, brother's, aunt's, cousin put a tag on it that says sonar, that doesn't mean it's a sonar. I promise you, just like it's not a fish finder. The machine is not a fish finder. The machine is called a photometer. But back to what we were talking about, Steve, at the dock, when you run your machine, you're going to run it and you're going to see how quickly the bottom is moving across your screen. Normally 1-to-1 will work just fine, but it could be your transducer that's under your boat. It might be an older style transducer or a newer style. So the speed, you'll be able to tell just by sitting there in your chair on your dock, looking at the bottom and seeing how quickly it moves across the screen. You do not want it to be flying across the screen, and you don't want it to be moving so slow that you can't tell it's moving. You'll understand what I'm talking about when you sit in front of it at your dock. Gang, none of this works offshore. You cannot adjust your photometer offshore. You can't. If you start spinning buttons offshore, you're not going to see anything on that machine. You have to be looking at the bottom when you adjust it. Now, if you're at the Coronados and you're getting ready to go offshore because you knocked the crap out of the yellows and now you're going to move offshore, now you can set it up in 100 feet of water. You can look at the bottom. You can do what I said, turn the gain up as high as you can, then turn it down just enough so that you can see the bottom and the top and there's no clutter on the screen. And then Don Stanley, your question was really cool too. The two things you're talking about, the side view and the clear view, those are going to work phenomenal when you're fishing at the island. When you're fishing in shallower water, when you're fishing in 100 feet of water or less, the clear view and the side view, those are going to come in handy when you're anchored up and you can't figure out how far away you are from the rock. You look at your side view on your side scanning photometer and you can kind of see where the rock is, if you missed it or not, that kind of stuff. But when you get offshore, when that thing's pulsing out and pulsing back and there's nothing for it to hit the targets, it's just going out into never land and then coming back. You're not going to see anything. And I know that's not what the guy that sold you told you, but I'm just being honest. I don't sell electronics, but gosh darn, I know how to use them. My best year ever, I was on 142 different boats, and every one of those boats had a different machine on it. So I got to touch a lot of machines and look at a lot of different machines. And sometimes I would be too tired in the morning, Al, and I'd get on their boat and I would forget to take a couple seconds and set the machine up. And then I'd get offshore and there's nothing I could do.
Just put it in manual. 200 feet.
Yep, but
And then, hey, another thing that might help them is on my meter, in the manual settings, I have preset depths. So I have it, at 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. So when I go to manual, I can click whatever depth I want real quick.
Yeah, that helps out tremendously.
Right.
If you can preset it. But
Right.
all this, like Al and I were saying, needs to be done at the dock. So now we kind of got a clue of what we're doing now. We got all our electronics. We got our good pair of binoculars. We know what to do with the photometer. We know how to use our GPS. I do this seminar a lot where I tell you all this stuff needs to be set at the dock. And your radar, you need to practice with the radar, and you need to use your radar when it's sunny and clear and learn how to see the target. The last thing you want to do is try to figure out how to use your radar when it's dark or in its fog. You got to know how to use all this. But we're back fishing offshore now. So now we're offshore. Now we find, because now it's going to be kelp patty fishing. And if you find one, it could be possibility of life-changing event. You could find the kelp patty with everything on it. Now there could be bluefin, yellowfin, dorado, yellowtail, all on one patty. And that's what's going to happen as the summer and we roll into the fall. These are the possibilities that can happen. But here's what I'm going to try to tell you guys. There's somebody out there that wrote a book, published some articles that taught you guys to sneak up on a kelp patty. There is no reason to ever sneak up on a kelp. Have you ever been on a sport boat? That's like the Royal Polaris or the Shogun or the Freelance or the Seahorse. When we pull up to a kelp patty, we got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 people on the boat. Beer cans flying, kids screaming, bathroom doors banging, guy in the galley, number 7, your cheeseburger's ready. And we drive right up to the edge of the patty, and 100 people drop their lines in the water, and we start wailing on the fish. Here's what I see these people doing, Al, on their 20-foot sea swirl. They find a kelp patty offshore, and they're freaking out. They're like, which way's the wind blowing? Okay, so if we get 1/8 of a mile above it from the west, and it's going to blow us down, and shh, turn off the radio. Al, turn off the stereo. Al, don't jump around on the deck. Al, shh. Shall we turn the bait pump on? Gang, pull up to the damn patty, right to the edge of it. Look in the water. If you see fish under it, guess what? There's fish on there's fish on the kelp patty. If you look on your fish finding apparatus and you have it set up right, and you have it set up at 200 feet, you look under the kelp patty and you see worms going by your screen at 100 feet down. There's fish on the kelp patty. If you don't see anything when you look in the water, you don't see anything on the fish finder, and you don't hook any fish in 10 minutes, there's probably no fish on the kelp patty. I have ADHD. I can't sit on the patty for 10 minutes. Here's what would happen. If me and Al pulled up to a patty, I threw my bait in, he threw his bait in, and I go, Al, you getting a bite? No. Al, you feel a bite? Do you see a bite? Al, you see anything under the patty? Al, look at the fish finder. Is there anything on the fish finder? Al, do you see anything under the boat? Do you see anything on the fish finder? I'm like freaking out. You know why? Because 1.5 miles behind us is Pablo and Justin on their boat, and they're coming. And they're coming. And they're going to get in front of us, and they're going to find the patty with the fish on it. So I'm like looking at Al. Come on, Al. Did you see anything on the patty? Al, we've been here for a minute. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go, because I don't want anybody in front of me. I never want to. If you're not first, you know what you are? Last. And I never want to be last. I always want to be out in front. And another thing, if I see 8 or 9 boats over here on the port side, I'm going to the starboard side, and I'm going as far away from those boats as I can. Why is there 4 or 5 boats over there? Because Captain Al went out there and found a kelp patty, and he was catching yellows, and then the other 7 boats parked around him because they wanted to watch Al fish. And I think it's great. I'm stoked. I want everybody to watch Al. You know why? Because that means I can go find a kelp patty by myself without any boats on it. It's super important, gang. I seen so many people come to me and tell me, Dave, I found a kelp patty at 10 o'clock this morning. We sat on it all day. We never got a bite, but we stayed with it. I'm like,
Huh.
what? And Al, do you feel the same way about it when you
Oh
find it?
yeah. Yeah, clients look at me all the time like, this guy's crazy. I said, wind him up. We're out of here. I'll
We ain't got
I'll explain it to you later.
because there's a boat coming, man. We gotta go. We gotta
We're
get
just getting used to the rod and stuff. Oh, well, you're gonna get used to it on the next one when you get bit.
Yeah.
And then, hey, another good thing is, like, say you're leaving out of San Diego, like I do every morning, and there's a bunch of kelps on the 371. So everybody, 50 boats are on the same line, right? What I'll do is I'll pull out of the point a couple miles and I'll go different direction for 5 or 7 miles, and then I'll cruise that way. So I'm off the path of all these other boats. Get out and just believe in yourself, and get out and mingle and look around, and don't go on the same freaking freeway that everybody else is on, because then you're really going to be last.
And that is so great to say that. And it leads me into what I used to do, Al, when I was fishing every day out of Dana Point. You got to figure, let's just say the fish are on the 209, for example. So all the Newport boats are coming straight out of Newport and going to the 209. All the Dana Point boats are coming out of Dana Point going to the 209. So that water is going to be so looked at. I would run up off of Laguna. I'd run up the coast 4 or 5 miles, a mile off the beach before I would turn to go offshore. That way, my course, I'm going to be the only boat on that course going that way. So up there where you guys are at, if you come out of Mission Bay, you turn and you run up the coast. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles. Get up the coast and then turn and go offshore. Because now you've got clean water. Because the guys out of Oceanside are beelining it to where they're going. The guys out of Mission Bay are beelining it. But you got to think, where's my cleanest water going to be? It's going to be water that other boats didn't drive in. And when I say clean, that doesn't mean clarity of the water. That means water that Al and Justin and Pablo and Sonny didn't already look in. I don't want to be driving around behind Al. All right? Maybe Pablo.
No, you don't.
No, because you're out looking and you know what you're looking for. I don't want to be behind you looking to get your scraps. I want to be on my own line, cleanest area I can find, away from all the boats. Now, if I'm running a boat and it's 6:30 at night and we got a half an hour before it gets dark, and there's a couple boats up in front of me stopped on a kelp patty catching a few fish, yeah, at that time of the day, I'm going to go in there and help them. You're absolutely right, because I ain't got poop on the boat. I failed miserably all day. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to explain to my guys, we're going in here because these two boats don't have the amount of bait we have, and we're going to go help them. And I'm going to go in there. I'm going to dump 20 scoops of bait on that kelp patty. It's the end of the day. It's over, baby. But never, ever start your day off fishing for boats, man. You are so out of it if you're going to get out there and go offshore and try to find the boats. Another thing that's really funny that I've observed when I was in San Diego is the amount of boats that set outside of Mission Bay waiting for the San Diego to come out in the morning. And then they follow Ryan all over the ocean all day. It's just, and he usually has 10 or 15 boats following him all day. It's crazy.
Yeah, just some up-to-date information on that as of yesterday. San Diego was anchored in between the gap over there, and they had 25 boats over there. I was out doing my own little thing, dealing with the fish and the sea lions, and I looked over at South Island, the lee side. I call it my honey hole over there, and there was nobody over there. So I told Ryan, I said, put the Rapalas in. I ran over there real quick, pulled the Rapalas, put the sardines in, and we started smoking them all by ourselves. Well, me and Mark from Fish Hunter Charters. That we're the only two over there. He came after I went, and then San Diego got dried up where they were. I pulled the anchor, and they came over to the lee side of over there where I was at, and they anchored south of me, and all the boats wandered over to the San Diego. And next thing you know, it was just littered with boats where I was at. But I was done, so it was cool.
Yeah, it's amazing to me when I see, Ryan's one of the best fishermen on the planet, and he knows what he's doing. And like I used to say on that AM radio show all the time, when I would talk to him, I would say, my hat is off to you. My God, you can't even, it's so hard to catch fish in Southern California anyway. And then to drag 25 boats around with you all day, that is amazing. Every time he catches fish, gang, you got to understand, this is one of the best fishermen in the history of Southern California. This guy's dragging around 25 boats with them all day, everywhere he goes, and he still catches fish. It's amazing. But you don't have to do that. You're members of our website. Al just told you a big secret about the Coronados. Just because there's 15 or 20 boats sitting over there at that spot, you don't need to go there. Al went and found his own fish by himself, gang. It's about knowing how to use all your equipment that you spent all this money on, and then knowing how to fish. Those two things are super crucial in this thing. I've had so many new members this year call me up and say, Captain Dave, I want to go catch a yellowtail. I'm all, how long you been fishing? Well, we started fishing 3 weeks ago. I got all the stuff. Well, you got to learn how to fish. You got to learn how to fish first. You don't get to go catch yellowtail when you first start. You got to learn how to fish. You got to learn how to get offshore, read the conditions, understand what you're looking for, and then start to put the puzzle together and learn how to cast. And castability is huge. All these different things. Right now, that yellowtail that Al's talking about at the Coronados, though, what these guys are doing most of the time is slow trolling baits, which is a phenomenal way to do it because it makes it real easy. You're not casting at these fish. But if you're offshore and you start to see foamers and you got your gyro binoculars and everything set up, and then you start to see foaming fish, I always say if there's no boats around, then you can maneuver and get alongside of them and try to cast in the direction that they're moving so that you can fish them. But if there's a lot of boats around, gang, it is combat style fishing. You got to be the guy that gets in the foamer. You got to be in it. You got to get there first because there's going to be 8 or 10 other boats that are going to drive right in there and put the fish down. So it's full on combat style fishing when there's 4 or 5 boats in an area where there's foamers at. What I'll usually do when I get in an area, and I usually get to work that area for 20 minutes to an hour before the other boats get there. But as soon as you stop, Al, you know this, as soon as you stop, I don't care if you didn't see a boat all day. As soon as you stop, out of nowhere, here come boats. You're just like, where did these guys come from? They just popped up from out of the ocean, and they're coming for you. Yeah. We don't want to be those guys. We don't want to be the boat fishermen. You don't need to do that. But what I'll do is if I find an area where there's foamers and then a bunch of boats get on it, I'm back up in the bridge and I'm looking 3 or 4 miles away. I'm starting to scan. I already know that those foaming fish are right here next to us, and there's 4 or 5 spots of them, but there's a bunch of boats, a bunch of booger eaters, and they're going to keep putting the fish down. I get back in my gyros and I start looking, and I'll find some fish away from the fleet. But here's what I don't do. Remember, I was always on a big boat, so everybody kind of knew what boat I was on, and they would follow me around. I would head, if I'd seen some fish 3 or 4 miles off the starboard side, I'll go port for a while. I'll go port for a half mile or something and get everybody headed in that direction. And then I'll turn real fast and haul ass over 3 miles to where those fish. Because so many people are fishing for boats, gang. Don't fish for boats. Al, you go through it all the time, trying to explain to people how bad it is when you're trying to make a living and these other boats jump on top of you.
Right. I have clients when I'm fishing offshore, not all the time, but quite often, the ones that never fish with me mainly, they're like, hey, they can see boats off in the distance all piled up. Hey, man, there's a bunch of boats over there. I'm like, yeah. I said, we're doing our own thing. We're going to go find our own fish. Bear with me. You know?
And so many people, your friends, when they come with you on your boat, that's what they do. And I talk to so many members, and They tell me they got a plan. They're going to go execute the plan. They heard from Al or Justin or Pablo. And then I go, okay, but are you taking your friends? And they'll go, yeah, I got a couple of buddies from work going. And I go, okay, well, here's what's going to happen. They didn't hear Al. They didn't listen to what Al told you, or they didn't listen to what Justin told you. So as you're going out, here's what you're going to hear from your buddies. Hey, Al, look over there off the left side of the boat. Look over there, Al. There's 3 boats over there, Al. Al, why aren't you going? Al, why aren't you going over there? Al, go left a little bit. Look at all the boats over there.
Hey, they're hooked up. They're hooked up over there. They're hooked up over there.
Yeah. Are you sure they're hooked up over there? There's a guy hooked up over there. There's somebody. Why in the hell are now everybody on the boat is looking at that group of boats? No one on the boat's looking for fish. And you made Al, who you had confidence in, you're making Al look over there too. Now Al wants to look for fish, but now you made him look at the boat. And there's a guy see the guy in the blue shirt over there, Al? He's hooked up, Al. The guy in the blue shirt's hooked up. You're like,
hooked up. They're all excited.
I don't understand. It doesn't, gang, your friends are going to make sure you explain to your friends before you leave in the morning when you're going offshore, gang, we're going fishing today. We're not going looking for boats. If you want to look for boats today, tell me right now, and we will stay in the harbor. There are millions of boats in the harbor. We can go up and down the docks. We can look at all the pretty boats. We can save a bunch of money on fuel and bait, and we can just fish for boats. But you got to explain to them before you get out there. You got to let them know we're not fishing for boats today. I'm sorry. When we get out there, you're going to get excited. You're probably going to see a boat or two that are going to be stopped. They got stopped because their people were looking for fish. We're not getting stopped. You know why? Because you guys are looking at the pretty boats. We got to quit looking at the pretty boats. We got to start looking for fish.
Yeah, or wait for the jigs to go off.
Why you're looking for fish.
That's right.
Why you're looking for fish.
And
then I'm going to leave you all with this. The number one thing you're looking for when you're offshore is anything that is not water. Because that's been the easiest way for me to explain it to people for so long. What do you mean by that, Dave? What do you mean something that's, if it's not water, there's a good chance it's fish. Or there's fish around it. I've caught Dorado and albacore and yellowfin tuna on the roof of a barn that was floating around. I've caught Chris Goebel, the old captain of freelance, and I caught a bunch of yellowfin one day underneath the jacket. We found a jacket floating on the water, and it was just 100 yellowfin tuna underneath the jacket because it's like a kelp patty. Any type of structure is going to hold fish. And we can go over all the banks and we can go over all that stuff. You know what? This is like a ton of information to try to give y'all in an hour. We've already burned through the hour. So tomorrow we're going to follow this up with some more information about this offshore thing because it could go on and on. We didn't talk about fishing the flying fish. We didn't talk about the kite. We didn't talk about popper fishing or all the different things that you can do. So tomorrow we're going to do more offshore fishing. Join us tomorrow. Al, how can they get a hold of you?
They can call me direct at 619-800-FISH. That's 3474. Or go to my site at captainclowers.com. Dan Kim gave me a shout out about my boat. Yeah, Dan, thanks, man. I guess he has a slip right by my field dog.
Yeah, he does.
Right on, yeah. Dave. I appreciate everything you do for us. And if you guys want to go, or family or friends or acquaintances, send them my number, man. I'm ready to rock. I don't like sitting at home. It's time
and also,
to kill some fish.
Everybody wants a yellowtail. Why don't you go with Al and go get your yellowtail, see what he's doing? Even if you own your own private boat, even if you have spent zillions of dollars on all the tackle and everything, go with Al right now. It's almost a guarantee. There's so much yellowtail at the Coronados right now. It's almost a guarantee. At least go see what it's all about. And if you own a boat and you just aren't quite putting the puzzle together, Al will go with you on your boat and teach you how to fish on your boat. Justin will do that. Pablo will do that. Al's my age. We're not getting on anything under 35 feet, gang. Sorry, we're too old for that. We love you guys. We love your skiffs. If he's going to go skiff fishing, he's going with his grandkids on the Shigari.
Right.
He's not going to go spend a day on your boat where he can't sit down. He's
right. And another piece to that puzzle is a lot of people want to know a lot of information about tackling gear and how to and all that stuff, and they want me to go on their boat. Well, none of that stuff's on their boat. You come on my boat, you get to see everything firsthand, all the gear, how I do it, when I do it, why I do it. You know what I mean? But I'll go on your boat too, you know?
And it's just a great learning experience. And right now, you got about a 99% chance of catching a yellowtail. It's pretty unbelievable how good it is right now.
Yeah, it's pretty darn good down there, you know, not unless they finish spawning and get out of there, or we get a really bad super wind blow. They're going to be there for a while still. The water temperature was 64. Normally they kind of skedaddle, man. There's so many yellowtail down there. They're biting in 64-degree water, no problem.
Yeah, and that fish slides all the way down. The Ensenada guys are talking about massive volume of fish there. And all that fish is headed all the way. It's going to keep on swimming. It's going to come up to Catalina, San Clemente Island. It's just going to keep on cruising up the coast looking for food. Once it eats all the food at the Coronados, it's going to be on its way to find more food, gang. So we're in for a phenomenal end of summer, and the fall is going to be incredible. We'll cover more of this offshore stuff tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this show today. We tried to give you as much information as we could in an hour. We have tons to follow up on. If any of this made sense and it sounded, nice hole in your head.
Somebody wanted to see the bandage.
There you go.
It's the size of a freaking golf ball.
All because you don't wear sunscreen.
It's not my first rodeo either.
No, it isn't.
I'm gonna go chill the rest of the day. Let it heal up a little bit.
Absolutely. Go lay down and answer that phone. Everybody should be calling out. Even if you're not going to book him, call him up and talk to him. He's lonely. He's stuck at home. He'd rather be out killing stuff. Give Al a call. Tell him you saw him on the show today. Give him a call, gang. Justin and Pablo are out fishing today for fun. They didn't have trips today either, so they took both of Pablo's boats and went fun fishing. So
have you got any pictures from them yet?
Haven't even heard a word from them. So they're having a horrible day or they're having a phenomenal day. One of the two.
Right.
We'll find out in a little while, gang. And Justin will be fishing live on Thursday. Al, when's your next trip?
Friday.
As soon as someone calls you, right?
No, Friday I'm booked on a full day of Friday.
Yay.
Yeah, but hopefully sooner than that. I just need today. I think I can. Maybe I might need to be mellow tomorrow, but after that, I'm gonna roll with it as long as everything's okay with that.
And then, gang, Friday show is going to be incredible. We got Michael Folks on the show. The history of sport fishing goes off on Thursday at 8:00 in the morning. You can buy episode 1. He's going to talk all about it on Friday. Hopefully, a lot of you have pre-purchased this show. The history of sport fishing. It is an absolutely incredible 12-hour film series that's just going to blow your mind. We got to see a little bit of it yesterday on the show. Elliot showed us a little bit of it. Michael's going to be on here talking about it. I guarantee you Kelly Girl and I are watching it Thursday morning. We already pre-bought, so we can't wait for Thursday morning to watch it. The first episode airs Thursday morning. It's going to be insane. The history of sport fishing. If you're into fishing at all, you're going to absolutely love this show. It touches on every aspect of sport fishing, and he's got some of the most coolest old vintage film that he found that's been just sitting in his house for the longest time, and he had to get it digitalized or it would have just melted away. So we're super excited to bring Michael in on the show on Friday, and we're super excited about Thursday morning. I cannot wait to watch episode 1. And you all should be pre-buying this thing for $9.99 to watch way better than going to a movie and watching it. It's going to be incredible. You can watch it in your house, rewind it, go back, see all the great footage. So check it out. The History of Sport Fishing, Michael Fultz. He'll be on the show on Friday. Thank you all for watching today. Captain Al Clowers, thanks for jumping on here with us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you later.
And check out Al's Facebook also, because you can see that couple. You can see all his trips over there on his Facebook page, and you can see that couple yesterday. That was a cool little video they made for you.
Yeah, Captain Clowers Facebook, Captain Clowers Instagram. I post all my pictures on there.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Promar Ahi USA, thank you very much for always sponsoring our Monday and Tuesday shows. Don't forget, get some GT4 before you go fishing. I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll finish up this offshore.